Hey guys, Corey here from Rigwell. Thank you so much for purchasing Flareboxes. Today I'm going to show you how to put these things together. It's a pretty simple install. I'm going to list all the tools you're going to need right here on the screen. Now that you've gathered all the tools, get your hardware packs out. It's pretty simple. There's not too much hardware here. We have the door hardware, which is the smaller stuff. And then we have the mainframe hardware, a couple rubber bumpers, and we'll get into all that while we're building it. So the first step, let's lay out the parts we need. So here are some of the main parts. You have this big mainframe piece, I would call it. Then you have a top plate, and you can tell the top plate because it has these wings. So that's the top plate. And then the bottom plate is essentially the same, but it doesn't have the wings. And when you're putting this together, you can see these angles. Those will match up with this mainframe piece here. So let's start with the bottom plate. And then we'll take our mainframe and it just sits over top. So you can kind of put it on there and make sure all the little tabs are behind the mainframe. So all the tabs sit behind here, and it's super easy. You just set it down on and match the angles up. Next, we're gonna take out of our mainframe hardware kit our bolts and our nuts, and we can just start plugging all these holes into the tabs and putting the nuts on the back side, and we will speed through this. Okay, now that we got all those bolts and nuts put in, we can just take our wrench here, and I like to tighten these from the back if possible with the socket, and then our Allen wrench on the front, and we'll go just tighten all these down. The next step, we're gonna take our top plate. So this is the correct orientation when it's built. So it's nice and flat on top, but we need to put our clip nuts in. So we need to flip this over, and then we'll take our clip nuts. They have little ears on either side, and they plug into these rectangular holes all along the top here. So anywhere you see a rectangular hole, that gets a clip nut. Basically, you just put one of the ears in, and you grab yourself a flat blade screwdriver. Then you can hold, kind of helps if you hold your hand below it. You can hold one of the ears kind of on, and then you put your flat blade and just push the other ear, and you'll hear that nice snap, and that means it's in there. So your clip nut should be able to slide back and forth, so that gives you a little wiggle room when you're putting the wood top on this. The next step, super simple. We're gonna take our little rubber bumpers and we're gonna put those in from the front. They have a little tail on them. You just put them through, grab the little tail, and just yank it through these front holes here. So there's 4 of them. Now that we got all of our clip nuts in, we're ready to set this top plate down onto the main frame here. So again, the tabs go on the inside. And it's best to have some of the bolts ready, but same process as the lower. The bolts will go in the front, and if you get a couple in there, they'll kind of hold themselves. So we got those guys started, and then all the way around the perimeter, again, we're going to be putting these bolts. Okay, now we got them all in there. Go ahead and thread the nuts on the back and tighten them all down. Next step, we're going to be putting in the back brace. So I'll flip this around so you guys can see it. So this little piece here, this is the back brace, and it simply just goes over these tabs like this, and we'll take 2 bolts and our last 2 nuts here, we'll put the bolt in from the inside of the box, through the hole, and put our nut on the back. And we'll go ahead and tighten those down. The next step, we're going to be putting on our doors. These guys, they're a fairly thin gauge aluminum, and sometimes there might be a little tweaked or have a little warp in them. Don't be afraid to just put one side down and just give it a little bend until they're perfectly flat on the table. It's not going to hurt it, and it'll just make it look really nice once it's sitting in the Flarebox if it doesn't have a warp to it. So just a quick little pro tip there. So the first part of installing the doors to the Flareboxes is to get the two hinges. The round part of the hinge will stick out front. So there's a little slot here, and you can just drop it down in. We'll get our little screws and nuts here, and we can just get these started loosely. And you can just hand tighten all these little screws. You got 4 for each hinge. Okay, now that we have those on there, we'll take our door. The small door, it doesn't matter if you have it this way or if you have it this way. One note on the bigger door, you do have this little angle. This side is square, so that angle you'll want to make sure is matched up with the angle in the main frame piece. But for this video, just to try to keep this short for you guys, I'm just going to show you how to put on the small door. So if you grab your door, and same process, you got the little bolts, and you'll get them in the hinge. Nuts go on the back. Next step, we're going to put our locking latches in. So these will come locked. Take your key, turn it sideways, and you press it in, and now it's unlocked. They have a kind of U-shaped bracket on the back. You just grab your Phillips here and undo the screw. Now we have that U-shaped bracket off the back. We can go onto our door and put it in from the front, and then the bracket just goes on the back, and you just put that screw back in. Now the actual catch will need adjusted later, but for now you can just screw it back, and then you can open it up and then close it, and now your door will be held. So the next step is the most particular and kind of fussy part of the whole job of building up the Flareboxes, and that is to get the gap of the door to the main frame exactly how you like it. So basically the best kind of method that we found for this is to really take your time. You can tighten down a screw on one side and then tighten down a screw on the other side, and kind of just watch this gap all the way around. You don't want the doors too tight on the actual hinge down here because it'll actually rub the powder coat off the hinge. So you want just a little gap on the bottom and on the top so your door can pivot really nicely. There's not a really great way to show this on camera. I'm gonna do it here and just kind of fast forward through it. But it's not rocket science, it just takes some patience to get this gap nice all the way around. Now that we got both doors on, you're gonna have 2 of the little screws and nuts that we used for the door hardware, and those guys go right here. So there's one there, and there's one there. Same process as the doors. Screws go in the front, nuts go in the back, and we'll just tighten those down. And finally, we're at the last step of the install here. So we take our wood top. You know it's the top because it has the countersunk holes. And take the remainder of our hardware, and we just line up our holes with our clip nuts. I like to get them all started first before you tighten them down. And remember, these clip nuts, they do move in their slots, so if something's not lining up, you can kind of slide the clip nut around So I like to get them all started first. Now that we got all of them started, you can kind of move it around. There's some play in here. So I like to line up the edge right with the front on one of the corners and then go ahead and tighten that one down. So we'll tighten that one down, and then I come to the opposite end and I like to make sure that that corner is also flush with the face, and I'll tighten that one down, and then I'll just do all the rest of them. And it's important to just use an Allen wrench. If you use an impact gun with the clip nut, basically there's so much torque, it'll spin the clip nut and won't allow you to tighten it at all. So just do this by hand. Takes just a little bit longer, but there's not too many of them. And that's a wrap on building up the flare boxes. So from here, it's really just a step and repeat for the other side. They're just mirror images of each other. So super easy there. If you guys have any questions while you're building them up, please feel free to reach out to customer support. We love chatting with you guys and helping you out. From here, you want to watch our next video in this series, which shows you how to put them in your Rebel. Super easy install there. So check out that video, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.